Wait, hold on. Is this on even? Oh, right. Hi. If you like the show, can you please leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast? Especially if you're listening on Apple, because it seems to really matter over there. Besides, you don't even have to write anything. Leaving 5 stars will do. If you don't like the show, however, well, that's your choice. But if you do like the show, it's a great way to help spread the word about the podcast and show your support. Believe me, I'm incredibly grateful. Alrighty, now on to the show. Hello, I'm Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. It's Throwback Thursday, and in today's episode, I'm sharing the audio from 10 authors who shared their books at the inaugural Epigraph Literary Festival in April 2022. All these authors had books with themes of family and friendship. So if you love reading books that tell the stories of the highs, lows, and complications of these relationships, stay tuned. So I have a quick question to ask you. Have you ever thought about starting a reading habit? Or maybe you're a once in every blue moon type of reader, but you want to be more consistent and maintain a reading habit. Or maybe you're an avid reader, but you're interested in having a more intentional and fulfilling reading life. Does that sound like you? If any of those scenarios sound like you in even the slightest, I want to invite you to take the What's Your Reader Type quiz. It will only take 60 seconds of your time and you'll discover your reader type. But most importantly, you'll get the resources you need to start reading, maintain the habit, and get intentional. So visit readertypequiz.com. That's readertypequiz.com. It will only take you 60 seconds and you'll discover your reader type and get the resources you need. So whether you're an aspiring or avid reader, go to readertypequiz.com, spend 60 seconds and take the quiz that will help you get clear on where you are right now and what you need to do to live your best reading and literary life yet. Well, hello there and welcome to another episode of the Reader's Couch podcast. It's Throwback Thursdays, and in today's episode, I'm sharing the audio from 10 authors who shared their books at the inaugural Epigraph Literary Festival in April 2022. All these authors had books with themes of family and friendship. So if you love reading books that tell the stories of the highs, lows, and complications of these relationships, then this episode is definitely for you. But before we get started, and just in case you're hearing about the festival for the very first time, I want to tell you about this fun virtual event and invite you to our next festival this April. So the Epigraph Literary Festival is a 3-day virtual festival that introduces readers to authors with new and upcoming books. And we also host conversations about books, reading, and the literary lifestyle. At past festivals, we've hosted sessions on crafting, entertaining, letter writing, journaling, and one of my favorite things to talk about, and yes, I host this particular session, it's on book collecting. But what I really love though, and I really look forward to and enjoy at the end of each day of the festival is our fun happy hour sessions. We always have a great time at the happy hours, and trust me, it's something you really don't want to miss. Now, we host 2 festivals each year. We host a Spring-Summer Festival in April and our Fall-Winter Festival in September. So our next festival is our Spring-Summer Festival, and it will be hosted on Thursday, April 27th through to Saturday, April 29th, 2023. So, April 27th through to 29th this year, 2023. So, I really hope to see you there. So, head on over to epigraphlitfest.com to register for free and join us from April 27th through to April 29th. I know April might seem like it's a long time away, but I promise you, it will be here in the blink of an eye. And early birds, they're the first to get dibs on event swag. So again, visit epigraphlitfest.com so you can get first dibs on event swag. But more than anything else, I just really hope to see you there. And I'm looking forward to us all having a great time together. But anyway, now back to the episode. So in today's podcast episode and in every Throwback Thursday episode from this Thursday until our event, which starts on Thursday, April 27th, I will be sharing the audio from the author sessions here on the podcast from our inaugural festival. So today we're sharing the audio from the authors who shared their books at the April 2022 festival and whose books have themes of family and friendship. So today you'll be hearing from author Alex Kiester. She'll be sharing her book, The Truth About Ben and June. You'll hear from writing duo Ali Brady, authors of The Beach Trap, Camille Pagán, author of Everything Must Go, Christine Simon, the author of The Patron Saint of Second Chances, Jendella Benson, author of Hope and Glory, Kimberl Lawson Roby, author of Sister Friends Forever, Leanne Dolan, author of Lost and Found in Paris, Matt McCain, The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle, and Meg Mitchell-Moore, the author of Vacationland. So I really hope you enjoy the audio from the authors sharing their books at the festival, and you can find a link with a list of all their books in the show notes. Alrighty, let's get into the episode. First, I'd like to introduce you to Alex Kiester, and she's the author of the novel The Truth About Ben and June.
Hi, I'm Alex Kiester. I am calling in from Austin, Texas, and I am so thrilled to be here today to talk to y'all about my upcoming novel, The Truth About Ben and June. Now, before I get into the summary of my book, I actually want to share the inspiration for it first. So I tend to feel that my most organic writing comes when I am exploring my fears. At the time I began this novel many years ago, the biggest fear in my life was the ambivalence of entering into parenthood. From an early age, I've sort of been one of those people who knows what I want from my life in most capacities. And yet, I don't know whether or not I want to have kids. Some days I do, some days I don't. And as this is literally one of the biggest decisions anyone can make, really, whether or not to bring a new human into the world, ambivalence about it can really be terrifying. So as a writer, my natural inclination is to just give this fear to a fictional character and let them deal with it. So I gave this fear to my protagonist, June, and then I upped the stakes. First, I made June's decision urgent. Rather than having years and years to decide if she wants to have kids, June gets unexpectedly pregnant. So really, she only has a few weeks to decide between having an abortion or having a baby, neither of which she truly, really wants. And then I made the consequences of her decision major. June is a professional dancer in the Martha Graham Company, which means that her body is her artistic medium. Carrying a baby full term is almost certainly going to end the career she's worked her entire life for. Giving this fear and also the experience of motherhood to my protagonist really helped me to explore that fear and to better understand it. The Truth About Ben and June is about this married couple, June, and her husband, Ben. They're in their early 30s when the book opens, and they are new parents. They've just had this baby, and they're really struggling with parenthood. One morning, Ben wakes up to discover that June is missing, and so is her suitcase. So Ben starts doing everything he can to figure out where June went and why she left in the first place. But the more he uncovers about his wife, the more he realizes just how little he actually knows her. So as y'all can probably tell, there is a thread of mystery in my novel, and there's also a little bit of humor peppered in, but really at its heart, it is this exploration of a marriage and what it means to share your life with another person. My novel digs into themes of motherhood, marriage. It even has a little Greek mythology in there, and it really explores the limitations and damage that can be caused by traditional gender roles. I hope that readers find my book both thought-provoking and also a whole lot of fun. The Truth About Ben and June is out this summer, June 28th. But it is available for pre-order now if you're interested. So I hope y'all pick it up. Thank you so much for listening, and happy reading.
Next up, I'd like to introduce you to the writing duo Ali Brady, and they're the authors of the novel The Beach Trap.
Hi, we're Ali Brady,
a writing duo made up of me, Allison Hammer,
and me, Brady Godfrey. I'm located in Utah.
I live in Chicago, but I'm here in Utah for the weekend with Brady.
And we are so excited to talk to you today about our debut novel, The Beach Trap, which is coming out this summer from Berkeley on June 14th.
The Beach Trap is about two estranged half-sisters, Kat and Blake, who haven't seen or talked to each other in more than a decade. But when their dad dies and leaves them this rundown beach house, they're brought back together.
We initially imagined this story as sort of a twist on the classic movie The Parent Trap, where two girls meet at camp, find out they're sisters, and then work together to get their parents back together. But in our story, our girls find out they're sisters, they're torn apart by the history between them with their father, and then later on their father tries to get them back together.
So Kat and Blake both are at odds pretty instantly. Kat wants to keep the beach house because it's the place that she has so many memories of growing up with her father. But Blake wants to sell the beach house because she needs the money to help take care of her grandfather.
And the problem is that Kat doesn't have money to buy Blake out. And Blake wants to make sure she gets her fair share of the inheritance. And so she proposes an idea that they renovate the house over the course of the summer, and giving Kat a chance to try to get the money together. And then, but if Kat can't, then they'll have to sell it and split the profits.
That's the plan. There's a lot of great things in our book. It takes place in Destin, Florida, which is a gorgeous beach. If you haven't been there, it's got white sand and emerald green water. We took a trip down there to do research, and we got all the details right. Want to tell them what you tried?
So I tried oysters for the first time. I had never had raw oysters before, and we worked that into a scene where Blake, who has never been to Destin before, tries raw oysters and loves them.
There's another really special part about Destin called Crab Island, which isn't exactly an island. It's just a kind of a shallow place of water where a lot of boats go. And so we bought boiled peanuts from a boat, which is a scene there. So we worked really hard. We weren't just having fun. We worked really hard.
It was research.
It was research. We wanted to make sure that we got all the details right.
Absolutely. When we wrote the book, we wanted to write the perfect vacation read, the type of book that we like to throw in our beach bags and take to the beach with us.
Get it? The Beach Trap, beach book.
The beach book, perfect beach book. And we wanted to incorporate all the things that we like in a beach read. So there's sisterhood, strong female relationships, family drama, of course, the beautiful beach setting, and there's also some romance.
So when people ask us about what genre our book is, it really is a blend of women's fiction and romance, because the heart of the story is about our two sisters and their relationship and learning to forgive each other and realizing that they shouldn't blame each other for things that their parents did. So that's a really big part of the story. But like Brady said, there's also romance.
Yes, so you get not one, but two romances. So we like to say it's two for the price of one. Each sister has her own summer romance that blossoms into more, and they're both wonderful characters. We would say it's kind of moderately steamy. So for those romance readers, you get some steam.
There is some steam.
Yeah.
And the guys are great. They're both two hardworking guys. One is a handsome gardener, and one is a handyman. So they're both good with their hands, and they are nice and sweet and hot.
And hot.
I mean, like, what more could you want?
That's all you want.
There's also a cute kid, and one of them's a single dad, which,
love single dads.
Absolutely. And a cute dog. And this dog causes some antics.
Yes.
And is adorable and has so many nicknames that sometimes we forget what his actual name is.
You always need a cute dog in a beach book.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
We wrote this book mainly to be a fun vacation read and to entertain our readers, but we also hope that it'll spark some discussion. So the two sisters share a father, but they have different mothers, and they grew up in very different places and with different advantages and disadvantages. So they each got a different version of their father. And that's part of their process throughout the book, is starting to understand that their father was different for each of them, and they wonder which was the real version of their dad.
It's really interesting because they're both grieving the same man, but such different versions, and their relationships were so different. So I think that'll probably be a lot of discussion.
Absolutely.
And on a lighter note, the magic of summer camp. You know, these girls, they met one summer at camp and had an instant bond. And, you know, we say like in the very opening of the book that there's something magical about camp that just like brings you together. It's almost this like separate little world. So I think there'll be some fun conversation about that too.
And memories, because we both went to summer camp as girls, and we have fond memories of that too.
Yes. Camp Richwood.
Yes. I went to Camp Brighton.
Nice.
Yes. So the other thing that comes up in the book is Kat, one of the sisters, is a social media influencer. And part of her character growth is figuring out the difference between what's real and being vulnerable and what you show on social media and what you don't show.
There'll be a lot of good discussion about that. And also we hope that people will have some good debates about which guy they like and which team they're on, because they're both really great.
Yes.
Really excited to find that out. So that is about our book, The Beach Trap.
Thank you so much for listening in, and we hope that you pick up a copy of our book in June. Thank you.
Bye.
Next, I'd love to introduce you to Camille Pagán, and she's the author of the novel Everything Must Go.
Hi, my name is Camille Pagán. I'm calling in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm excited to share Everything Must Go with you, my latest novel. As the eldest of three sisters, I have always wanted to write a book about three very different women who happen to be members of the same nuclear family. But it wasn't until Lane Francis, the protagonist of Everything Must Go, popped into my head that I was actually ready to do so. A professional organizer who is fast approaching 40, Lane finds herself in a place that's familiar to so many of us. She wants to start a family of her own, but she also feels obligated to care for her aging mother, Sally, who may or may not have dementia. Family dynamics can be tricky even during the best of times, but navigating them during high-stress environments and situations can be especially difficult, and Lane discovers this as she tries with varying success to team up with her sisters Hadley and Piper and make decisions that will safeguard Sally without stripping her of her independence. Now, as someone who has gone through this in my own family life, watching my relatives struggle with and ultimately succumb to dementia, I can attest to the tensions that arise when a loved one's memory starts to fail. But as Lane discovers, there really is strength in numbers. At one point, she observes, being raised by the same parents at the same time is like being the last few to speak a dying language. So that's how I've always felt when my sisters and I have had to deal with difficult family situations. No matter what life throws at us, life is better when we do it together. And that is the message that inspired me to write Everything Must Go. I would love for you to pick up a copy of Everything Must Go when it comes out April 26th. If you get a chance to read it, email me and let me know what you think. I read every email and respond to them. I'm at CamillePagán.com. Thank you so much.
And next up in our session, I'd love to introduce you to Christine Simon. And she's the author of the novel, The Patron Saint of Second Chances.
Hi, I'm Christine Simon, and I wrote The Patron Saint of Second Chances. This is a funny story about the mayor of a tiny Italian village who will do whatever it takes to save his hometown. I wrote this story during quarantine with 4 kids at home on Zoom school, and it was so wonderful to escape to the tiny village of Premetto every day. I based the village on my grandparents' village of Ferrazzano, which is in the Calabrian region of Italy, a very rural area on top of a mountain and next to the ancient forest, the Bosco di Rodina. I first got the idea for the story from news articles that I've seen over the years of little southern villages with dwindling populations, selling homes for $1. I thought, what else could an enterprising mayor do? My main character, Signor Speranza, lives in just that kind of village, and he has a major problem. The pipes to his village are in disrepair, and if he can't raise 70,000 euros, the water commission is going to cut off the water and everyone will have to disperse. Not one to take something like that lying down, he gets a fantastic idea. He starts a rumor that famous movie star Dante Rinaldi wants to film his next project in the village. He thinks that it'll drum up tourism, plus he can collect money from investors. Of course, things soon spiral out of control. Everyone in the village believes the rumor, and what's more, they all want to be a part of the project. His assistant Smilzo wants to write a screenplay, Antonella, the young lady who's obsessed with the actor, wants to be the lead in the movie, and the butcher's 15 sons all want a part. Soon Speranza is in so far over his head, he doesn't have any choice but to make the movie for real. I think readers will enjoy the sense of community in this novel, as well as the spirit of fun. And if you want to read it, it's available April 12th. Thanks so much for listening and happy reading.
I'd like to introduce you to Jendella Benson, and she's the author of the novel Hope and Glory.
Hi, my name is Jendella Benson and I'm calling in from South London, England. The South in the London is very important and I'll explain to you why. I'm really excited to talk to you about my debut novel, Hope and Glory. And when we meet Glory, the main character in Hope and Glory, she has been out in LA living her best life, but when her dad suddenly dies, she comes back to London to be with her family and to mourn his death. But when she comes back, she finds her family in disarray, in absolute chaos. Her mum is on the verge of mental breakdown, her brother is in jail, her sister is in a marriage that looks perfect, but also looks kind of really bad as well. And she comes back and she thinks, you know what? I'm gonna fix things. I'm gonna stay. I've been away. I'm gonna stay and sort things out. But in the process of trying to fix everything, she discovers a family secret that essentially could blow up everything that she knew about her family, herself, her identity, and her family history. And Glory is a really interesting character. In some ways, she's unlikable. She's very kind of like focused on herself, thinks she knows everything about everyone else. But throughout the course of Hope and Glory, she goes on this journey, what I think is a journey of empathy and understanding, as she starts to understand her family and see them for the individuals that they are, rather than kind of just extensions of herself. And I think that that's something that a lot of us can relate to. When we grow up, we are the main characters in our story and our family members are just kind of like supporting characters. But in doing that, a lot of the time we don't necessarily see them for who they are and understand them on like a human level. And Hope and Glory for me was really a journey of empathy in that regard, like understanding people, understanding especially what the generation above us went through. I am from a Nigerian British background. I'm second generation, so my parents came to England and I grew up in England kind of off the back of their struggle. But growing up, like, you don't really understand these things. You kind of take all of this for granted, and it's as you get older and you experience life for itself that you can hopefully start to look at your parents with perhaps a more sympathetic eye, a more understanding eye, and in any case just kind of acknowledging what they've been through and the experiences that have shaped them and therefore also shaped you. Hope and Glory is also a love letter to South London, to Peckham to be precise. I grew up in Birmingham, a town in the West Midlands, about 2 hours or so from London, but I moved to London literally the week I turned 18. I moved down to London. It was always my dream to be in the action where everything is. And I lived in Peckham, this neighborhood in South London which is quite famous for its Nigerian British community, although there's a range of other communities there as well. And living in Peckham, I felt like I really came into myself, not just as an adult living outside of my home for the first time, but also as a Nigerian British person and understanding the potential of that identity. So yeah, I love Peckham. It's a place that I don't live there anymore, unfortunately. Can't afford to, you know, gentrification, but it's somewhere that I'm often there. I've still got family who live there. I'm there quite frequently and I just love it. So I wanted to write a book that would also kind of honor this community and also potentially preserve a space in London, a place in London which is changing rapidly and might not be the same. Well, it definitely won't be the same in a few years. But yes, that is what Hope and Glory is about. It is a family drama that is very much situated inside a community which I love and adore. And I hope that as people are reading the book, that they go on a journey of empathy with Glory as they learn to perhaps see their family, see the people around them through like a different eye. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it makes you laugh. It might make you cry, but ultimately I think it is a story that really is just full of hope and warmth.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Kimberl Lawson-Roby, and she's the author of the novel Sister Friends Forever.
Hi, I'm Kimberl Lawson-Roby, and I'm joining you from Belvedere, Illinois. I am so very excited to have an opportunity to share with you my forthcoming novel, Sister Friends Forever, which is also my 29th book. So to tell you a little bit about the storyline for Sister Friends Forever, first of all, it takes place in Mitchell, Illinois, which is a fictitious town that I created for a number of my other stories. It is 90 miles northwest of Chicago, so that is very similar to the city I was born and raised in and still reside in. And so in this story, it centers on 4 women who have now turned 40 years old, but they have been best friends since they were young girls. They met in church, they grew up together, but the one thing they did not have in common was school. So they didn't see each other on a regular basis, on an everyday basis even. They didn't go to the same elementary schools or junior high or high schools, and then they even made the decision to go to 4 different colleges and universities. But nevertheless, they still remained best friends. They still spent all their summers together. And then as they neared graduation, they made the decision to move back to their hometown to make that their permanent residence so that they could continue to be near immediate family members as well as each other. And so now today, they have this great relationship. They still get together for a luncheon once every single month on the first Saturday of every month, but they live very different lives. And they have very, very different relationship statuses. So for Serena, who is a motivational speaker, she's still single. She's never been married. She's never even been proposed to. And so she is struggling with that because she chooses a certain kind of man to date. And it's usually a man who ends up hurting her in one way or another because she's decided that she will only date men who either have a corner office in corporate America, they own their own business, and they earn at least 6 figures a year in terms of their salary. And so again, she's making decisions not based on who people are, how maybe a man might treat her, but she's more focused on material possessions and wealth, and the list just sort of goes on and on. And then you have Michelle, who is just recently engaged for the first time. She is a nurse practitioner for geriatrics. She is engaged to a cardiothoracic surgeon, and life is good. It's going well. They're preparing for their wedding that's going to be taking place in about 3 months. But in the meantime, who she meets and sees again is her first love, a man who she was in love with, but was not able to remain with or marry because her parents didn't think he was good enough. And so now she finds herself at a crossroads because she realizes that while she does love her fiance, she's still very much in love with the man that she was with many years ago. And then there's Kenya, who is an obstetrician gynecologist who is happily married. They have 2 wonderful children, but sadly her husband's ex-wife wants nothing to do with the idea of creating and maintaining a blended family as it relates to her son. And so they are dealing with lots of issues because of that in their household. And then finally, Lynette, who is a stay-at-home mom, she's recently divorced from a very wealthy businessman, but she now finds herself trying to navigate and figure out how to move forward with dating again after being with the same man for nearly 20 years. So one of the things that I am hoping readers will take away from Sister Friends Forever is that they'll be able to recognize what true friendship and true sisterhood really is. And of course that they'll be able to even recognize the importance of it. And at the same time, I'm also hoping that readers will be able to relate their own lives to the lives of each of the 4 women in the book. And so finally, I am inviting you and just asking you to please pick up a copy or order a copy of Sister Friends Forever on its release date, which is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. And I am so hoping that you will enjoy reading it. Thank you so much for listening, and all my very best to you.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Leanne Dolan. She's the author of the novel Lost and Found in Paris.
Hi, I'm Leanne Dolan, and I'm calling in from Pasadena, California. It's my hometown. I'm the author of Lost and Found in Paris, and I'm so excited for the opportunity today to tell you about my book. Now, I call Lost and Found in Paris an art history treasure hunt. That's because I'm not a mystery writer, and I didn't want to set the bar too high. But rest assured, there is stolen art in the book. There is intrigue, there are clues, there's racing all over Paris, there's romance, there's rock and roll, there's 70s supermodels. Now, I know my sister Liz is a little biased, but she called it a romp. So take that as you will. The main character of the book is an art curator from Pasadena. Her name is Joan, okay? And Joan is the daughter of Henry and Susie Blake. Henry Blakely is a famous light and space artist, and her mom was a supermodel in the 70s. Now, her dad died tragically, and for the last 10 years of Joan's life, she's trying to figure out who she is without her dad. I was kind of intrigued by this idea of what it's like to be the normal child of famous parents. So as we see Joan go through her day, she feels like she's the average daughter of above average parents. Now, she's lost her dad, and that's rocked her world. And right at the beginning of the book, her husband arrives at the museum she works at and drops a bomb on her, based on a true story. So Joan leaps at the chance to go to Paris. Her boss comes to her and says, hey, we're selling off this piece of artwork. It's a beautiful sketchbook from the 18th century of Joan of Arc portraits. Would you like to take this to Paris to a mystery buyer? Get it, Joan? Joan of Arc, get it? There's some parallels there. You're smart. I'm sure you get it. So Joan leaps at this chance. She gets on the plane. She meets a pretty cute guy on the plane. And when she gets off in Paris and puts the artwork in her hotel, it disappears. And that's when the clues start. This is the treasure hunt part, the romp part. You go all over Paris and all different kinds of unexpected places.
This is the beautiful Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena. It is a jewel box of a museum. Beautiful. A private collection that became a public museum. And Joan, the main character of my book, works at a museum much like the Norton Simon, but called the William Aston. Let's go inside. Okay, this is super exciting because I'm alone in this room. This is Franz Snyder's still life with vegetables and fruit. And this is the painting that Joan is describing in the very first scene of the book. And that scene was inspired by a real life description I had of this painting by Jonathan Gold, the famous food critic from the Los Angeles Times, the Pulitzer Prize winning food writer. I was at an event where he described this painting in such delicious detail. I thought, someday I'm going to use that. So in the book, there is a reference to Joan having a Sam Francis hanging on her wall as a gift to her for the day of her birth. And here are some gorgeous Sam Francis paintings at the Norton Simon. So Joan's would be a little bit smaller.
But really, for Joan, this is a journey of how to figure out loss and identity and who she is. And I thought it resonated when I wrote it, and I started it about 9 years ago. And I think it resonates even more now because of what we've all been through, this giant collective loss over the last couple of years. But that all being said, sounds really serious. This is a fun book. Remember, romp. So I'm so glad to have the opportunity to tell you about it. I hope when you read Lost and Found in Paris, you feel like you've been on vacation in Paris, right? Maybe you drank a little bit too much wine. Maybe you did a few things you're not that proud of. You saw a little art. You skipped some of the touristy places you should have gone to. You ended up in dive bars that you shouldn't have. You met a cute guy. Oh, that's the book right there. So you can find Lost and Found in Paris wherever books are sold. Thanks for supporting indies, and thanks for having me here at this fantastic celebration of books, reading, and the literary lifestyle.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Matt Cain. He's the author of the novel The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle.
Hi, my name is Matt Cain. I'm speaking to you from my writing room in London, England, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to share with you my upcoming book, The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle, which goes on sale in the US on May the 31st of this year, 2022. It's about a lonely, unhappy, and secretly gay postman who has a series of life crises that make him want to turn his life around. He wants to be happy. So he decides to delve back into his past, confront an unresolved trauma, and set off in search of the love of his life, a lost love that he hasn't seen, a man he hasn't seen for nearly 50 years. I won't reveal too much of what happens because I don't want to spoil it for for anyone, but I will say that along the way, Albert learns to love his true self. He connects with his community for the first time, and he makes some unexpected friendships because they're friendships with people who he didn't think he had much in common with, and he finds out that they're actually quite similar, or they do have lots in common after all. After the horrible few years that we've all had, and lots of us are still having, I really hope the book inspires readers to make the most out of life. If there's anyone who has any unfulfilled dreams or ambitions, I hope it inspires them to get out there and make them happen. And its motto is very much that it's never too late to start your life's big adventure. So I really hope this gets through. On a more personal note, one of the things that inspired me to write the book was the joy that I felt on seeing gay men like me being embraced by society. Because I think you would be hard pushed to find any other minority community that 50 years ago was as hated, vilified and feared as gay men, but that now is widely celebrated and loved and certainly accepted, at least in the UK and the US, I should point out. But that was very much my inspiration. I wanted to write a book that would celebrate this, and I really hope that all those people who read The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle, I really hope it makes them feel proud of the part they've played, however small that may be, in bringing about this extraordinary social change. I hope it makes everyone who has accepted, celebrated, loved gay men like me feel proud of themselves. Another thing that inspired me to write the book, and now we're getting really personal, was finding love at the age of 44. So, very late compared to a lot of people. And I found love with a man who, for his own personal reasons, had only come out of the closet, that is, the year before. And before I met him, I too had felt lonely. So I channeled all this kind of the unhappiness I'd felt before, his experiences and emotions, the joy we were both feeling at finding each other. I channeled all these into the book, and I really hope some of that joy comes through. Thanks so much for having me here at the Epigraph Literary Festival, and I really hope you enjoy reading The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle. It goes on sale in the US on May the 31st and will be available everywhere that books are sold.
And next up, I'd love to introduce you to Meg Mitchell-Moore. She's the author of the novel Vacation Land.
Hi, I'm Meg Mitchell-Moore, and I'm talking to you from Newburyport, Massachusetts. I'm so excited to introduce you to my new novel called Vacation Land, coming to you in June. Vacation Land takes place in an area of Maine known as Mid-Coast Maine, specifically in a place called Owl's Head, which is right across Penobscot Bay from the town of Rockland, which you might have heard of, and not too far from a town called Camden, which you might have heard of. If you're not familiar with this area, it's a beautiful, beautiful area filled with waterfront homes and cute little shops and pottery stores and restaurants and boats, pleasure boats and working fishing boats and places where you can buy lobster right off the pier and places where you can go out to dinner and have lobster, and people who live there just for the summer and people who are visiting for weekends and people who live there year-round living their regular lives. I was inspired for this book by a specific house that I know really well. It's the home of the family of a friend of mine, and I've been going to it for years and years, and I just love it so much, and I've always wanted to set a book here, so I finally have done it. This house is right on the water in Owl's Head, and you can see the Rockland breakwater and lighthouse from it. You can see boats going by, all kinds of boats, all times of the day. You can sometimes see seals, and you can hear lobstermen going about their business, pulling their traps. It's a beautiful house with bedrooms for visitors and a long dining room table where people gather for meals every night, and a wide porch where people can have their cocktails, and just a do a lot of wonderful things. I love it. So that was the inspiration for this book. I gave it a name. It's called Ship's View, although in real life it doesn't have a name. And I put into it a family that has nothing to do with the family that actually lives there. In my fictional family, we have Annie and Martin Fitzgerald, a couple in their 70s who summer in the home and live in Portland, Maine the rest of the year. And Annie is a homemaker and Martin is a retired justice for the Maine State Supreme Court. Now we have their daughter Louisa, who comes for the summer from Brooklyn without her husband and with her 3 children and with a whole bunch of resentment and marital strife and work stress. She's got a book she needs to finish for her job as a history professor, and she's hoping that the breeze wafting off the bay and her mother's care will give her some peace and help her get her work done. However, things are not as peaceful as she was hoping. Her father, who's been suffering from Alzheimer's for about 18 months, has gotten worse. Her mother, who's never had financial problems in her whole life, suddenly has them, and her children need her more than she realized that they would. So that's what's going on in the house. We also have a character named Christy Turner, who at the beginning of the book arrives by Greyhound bus into the town of Rockland with $27,000 of medical debt and a letter from her dying mother pointing her in this direction and little else. And over the course of the summer, the stories of all of these characters will intersect, and we'll start to find out a little bit about the secrets that some people might be carrying. Some of the themes of this book, I think the main theme is probably generational debt, what we owe the generations before us, what we owe the generations after us, and how much responsibility we have for what people in our family have done or not done in their lives. So that's an interesting question to me at all times. I'm also always interested in summer towns and people who live in them and people who live in summer towns year round and what their lives are like and how the lives of all of these different people intersect and come together and push apart and all the tensions that can come from all of that. So there's a lot of that in this book too. I also really have really strong children characters in this book. I always love writing children, and I have Louisa's children who are a boy who is almost 13 and 2 girls who are 10 and 7. I have them have their own point of view in their own situations and very real to them problems going on while they're also observing the chaos, the adults around them. So I think that's a really interesting thing to look at too, is what our children are listening to, what they're getting from what they hear from us, and what's going on in their own heads at the same time. So it's got a little bit of all of that in it. It's also got a really nice setting, a place that I think you can escape to for sure. It's got real things going on in it, but for sure it's a book you can read by the beach or by the pool and relax with. So I hope that if you get a chance to read it, you like it. Thank you.
Alrighty readers, I hope you enjoyed listening to the audio from the authors who shared their books at the April 2022 Epigraph Literary Festival. If you've read any of these books, please send me an email or send me a message on social media so we can talk about it. And if you're planning to add some of these books to your reading list, I want to hear about it too. I also hope to see you at our next festival, so please register to attend at epigraphlitfest.com. That's epigraphlitfest.com and join us from Thursday, April 27th through to Saturday, April 29th. I'll also include a link in the show notes so you can sign up there. As always, thanks for being here, thanks for listening, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.